Greetings, loved ones. Today, we're going to continue talking about how abusers isolate their victims. To help get these messages out, please subscribe to our channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, hit the like button, and please share these messages with others. You never know, just by doing so, you could save a life. Yesterday, we began discussing Kelly Jo Holly's story about how abusers isolate their victims on her blog, healthyplace.com. So let's continue with her story. Holly tells us that the abuse didn't only affect her, but began to extend to her abuser, intimidating others. She says, "My sister became the only person in my family who Will would physically intimidate and allow to hear him abuse me." She says, "I knew he could hurt her. She knew he had hurt me. And she says he used his strength and size to intimidate both of us as a reminder that he could do worse." She says, "Will's behavior toward my sister made me wary of bringing around other family members, but he never acted out in front of them." She says that the incident with the boy in the rose falls into this category, as does Will's aggressive behavior at bars. She says, "Some people may say he was showing off his strength to impress me, but after holding my face to a hot stove, the only thing his bar fights did was remind me that I had to go home with him." She writes, "Twice in the last year and a half we were together, Will physically abused me in front of our children." She says, "In addition to controlling me, I believe those displays of power were meant to show our growing boys what could happen to them too." After isolating her from people, friends, and family, Holly states the isolation then became a physical isolation. She says, "When it was time to leave the Army, Will wanted to live near his family in Texas. He found a house for us out in the country about an hour from anyone else." And she said, I was a stay-at-home mama, and my duties revolved around our boys and home. She says, "He required my shopping excursions to be short, and I do not remember being away from the house for more than 6 hours alone. He did not support my efforts to run my own business," she says, "because it brought strangers to his property." She says, "He didn't support my desire to go to school until most of my courses could be completed online." She said, "All of those actions and demands isolated me from most human contact." Holly shared that her abuser would feign dislike to further separate her from the ones she loved. She says, "My sister also moved to Texas, but Will said he didn't like her husband. He made it clear that my sister was a leech and a mooch. Her husband didn't have a brain, couldn't be trusted with the simplest man's work." Along the same lines, she says, "Will didn't trust my mother. He said that she left my dad for her current husband, who was also a leech and a mooch." She says, "He said she couldn't be relied on for marital advice because she was a failure. He ominously told me, 'You're going to be just like your mother.'" And Holly says, "I set out to prove to him that no, I would never leave him for any reason. I was not like my mom." Needless to say, she says, Will's dislike for my family affected how I viewed them too. Holly then shares her advice on what a victim of domestic violence can do about isolation and abuse. She states, "You can refuse to be isolated, period. You could reach out to people you've banished from your life and reconnect. Your controller will have something to say about this, of course." She says, "If you feel family and friends aren't the way to go, because sometimes we feel guilty for being mean and nasty to them in defense of our abuser, then reach out to a local domestic violence group or an online group if necessary. In the USA, you can contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and they will tell you where to find the groups and emotionally support you. In Honduras, you can contact your local office of the woman or the mayor's office, the National Human Rights Commission in your area, the Center for Women's Rights, or the National Institute for Women in Tegucigalpa, and you can call us too." This shame, intimidation, isolation, and manipulation brings the victim of domestic violence into a prison of silence. You can break that silence. You could be the person who saves a life. You are called, we are all called, to be champions for justice. And those who suffer violence need to know that those who love them and those who do not even know them will step out and reach out to them to give them the courage and the help they need to leave before it is too late. The question is not if you will encounter a victim of violence. The question before God is this: what will you do when you do encounter them? If you're a victim of violence, know this: there's no shame. You can go back. You can reconnect. You are valued and loved. You are intelligent. You're beautiful. And God doesn't want you to suffer violence. He wants you to live free from violence in peace and tranquility with all your friends and family and loved ones around you. There is a way out. This abuse is not love. If you're a victim of violence and may find yourself in a dangerous situation, dial 911 immediately. But also reach out to somebody and keep reaching out until somebody is able to help you. This series is dedicated in honor of Gabby Petito. So help us get these messages out. Please subscribe to our channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit the like button and please share these messages with others, because you never know, just by doing so, you could save a life. So in our next episode, we're going to talk about societal shame in relation to domestic violence. And until then, God bless you.